Hi, I'm Deborah Stefaniak. I'm the author of Another Part of Me, a Twin Flame Soulmate story. And I felt a little left out, so I figured I'd make my own Twin Flame video as well. I know there's a lot out there. I do have some subchapters on my channel, on my YouTube channel, about Twin Flame Soulmates and about purifying the bodies in order to get to your Twin Flame Soulmate, which is kind of common knowledge out there. But if you've read my book, there's some other parts that I think a lot of people have missed as far as Twin Flame Soulmates go. The rarity of them is getting less and less, and many Twin Flame Soulmates are starting to come together now, simply because the consciousness is changing all around us, all over the world. So, if you did read my book, you'll know that a long time ago, many, many years ago, there was a group called the Brotherhood that was introduced to me and to Michael. And they were very instrumental in my growth as well as his. And personally, they helped me through a great deal of things spiritually. Twin Flame Soulmates are spiritual relationships. They're not physical relationships necessarily. You can come together physically. That's an option, and for everyone it's going to be different. But a spiritual relationship with a Twin Flame Soulmate means simply that you're sharing the same consciousness. And when I say that, your soul almost acts as a unit. So if you picture the yin-yang symbol of the white and dark sides, each part of those halves have a part of the other. So on the black side of the yin-yang symbol, you have a white dot, and on the white side you have a black dot. If those two parts split apart, and you send one to China and you send the other part to Germany, they'll still have part of one another. They'll still have part of the same soul. So you're sharing the same soul, even though you're apart. You can consciously connect together through the soul. And how you do that is through the consciousness. You might have occurrences where you're feeling certain ways and you don't know why, you don't have a reason to. Believe that you should feel sad or happy, and it could be that you're experiencing something with your twin flame, or an experience that he or she is having. Twin flames will experience through the same soul. So many times you'll find your lives going through similar patterns. If it's alcoholism, it's a good chance that both of you might have issues with alcoholism. If it's childhood issues, it's a good chance that most definitely you'll both probably have childhood issues. If it's AIDS, if it's any big problems that you're incarnated to work through, usually you'll incarnate with your twin flame to work through them. And the reason is you'll have a connectedness and a shared consciousness to help you get through that. And that's one of the reasons they incarnate together, is because you can share that consciousness spiritually together. Although you're not physically together, they give you the strength to move through what you need to learn your lessons this lifetime around. And when we're talking about lessons, it's not necessarily lessons that are necessarily physical. These are spiritual lessons. So in aspects of the soul, our subtle bodies are more important than what everything looks like on the outside. So you might be an accountant by trade, your soulmate might be an engineer by trade. It really doesn't matter what you do for a career. What does matter is the internal chemistry that you have with that particular soulmate and the connection that you have or that you share. And this is at the deepest recesses of yourself. This is the deepest recesses of your soul. So it's not something that you will find outside of yourself. It's something that you will find inside of yourself. Those times that you're quiet, those times that you might be reflecting upon your life, those times that you might be very sincere in prayer, are the times that you are more than likely to connect with your twin flame soulmate. I know on my path, I had so much connectivity with Michael. I wondered if he could hear my prayers, and he did, and he even recorded that in a song called You Are Not Alone. And the words were, I can hear your prayers. He could hear them. Now there's a difference between being a twin flame soulmate and sharing consciousness. And that's kind of what I wanted to get to with this, because the consciousness is changing. And since Michael's died, there's been a lot of people that have been connecting with his soul, feeling him around, feeling the consciousness. So we wanted to address this to help alleviate the stress and to help streamline the consciousness and set things straight. What's the difference between a twin flame soulmate, connectedness with consciousness, and universal consciousness is that I might be able to reach out to anyone universally. The consciousness, once I enter into the state of oneness or that field that connects everyone, I can probably telepathically connect with anybody. The Dalai Lama, somebody in China, somebody in India. That's a part of us all. And at the very core, all of us are connected. So we can all have the ability to do that. The difference between that and a twin flame soulmate is not only will you be able to connect consciously, telepathically, but you'll also experience the same things. Remember, you're the part of the same soul, so your soul is experiencing the same as the other part of your soul most of the time. So, for example, you might be doing dance steps while they're doing dance steps, and then later find out that you were doing them at the same time. Or you might come up with a phrase and think it was your own, but later find out that that twin actually came up with that phrase. And then maybe sometimes you don't even know who came up with it first because you were experiencing it at the same time. So the soul experiences it together, so you don't feel that you're so separate on that journey. And the separateness, because it is so strenuous and can be so lonesome, you're kind of given a blessing and a gift from God to have that connectivity within you. So, in my opinion, most twin flame soulmates meetings, before they do occur, will be preceded by very difficult lives, very difficult lessons, very difficult situations that you must transcend in order to get to your true essence. In some respects, you may be pushed to the point where you have no place other to go than to God. And as a result of going there and connecting with your higher self, you will then connect with your twin flame soulmate as well. So, these are stressful times. The veil is getting thinner. Many people are going to have and are having really right now really unusual experiences that they haven't had before. Many twin flame soulmates are coming together, but they're not coming together physically necessarily. Again, the experience is going to be in the soul. It's going to be a shared soul experience, somebody that you can count on inside that not necessarily someone sees on the outside, which can be a good thing. If your twin flame soulmate is married, if they're on the other side of the world, you always have that connection. It never leaves you. So they're always there. And if you force the meeting, if you try and force something physically, if you try and make it into a man-woman relationship as it's defined on earth, it doesn't work. It wasn't created. You weren't created that way. God didn't say this is a man and this is a woman, and then sometimes they're going to bump into each other and then they're going to get married and never get separated. That's still your two people. When he said that he's divinely joining the two, what God has divinely joined, no man shall separate. That means something is joined from the beginning and will never separate, ever. Not even if they're in two bodies. So remember that, because this is spiritual work. It's work of the soul. It's not necessarily work of the physical body. So if you find out that you have a twin flame soulmate someplace and you can't understand why you're not physically coming together, if you get, and you probably will maybe get frustrated with that person for not taking the twin flame soulmate experience seriously, you have to back up a few steps, because again, it's not a physical experience. And there's a big step between having a physical experience and realizing and accepting, not just realizing, but accepting that you're having a spiritual experience and that it's real. And that's a big hump for a lot of people. that it is real, because we're full of these preconceived ideas that we're just living on our outsides. We're living in the we're living in the physical world and not necessarily the spiritual world. We're not paying attention to our spiritual bodies as much as we are our physical bodies. And so our validations for our spiritual experiences are not going to be as valid as our physical experiences. There's no book that's going to tell you, yes, John Doe is your twin flame soulmate. You're going to have to find that out definitely from the inside and just know it within yourself. And there's not going to be any handbook, just like with a child, on how to raise a child and how to transition through a twin flame soulmate relationship. Each one's going to be different, each personality is going to be different, and at times those personalities might get in the way. So you have to be careful with how you perceive what your experience is. You can also take it very lightly and stand back as if you're a witness to the experience to make sure that you get the best and the most out of the experience. And look at it like a child, as if you're looking at something for the first time. These experiences and these relationships haven't been taught about for a very long time, and I say that because they have been taught about. They are in our history. They're in the book of Adam and Eve. They're in the book of the yin and yang. They're in Thoth. They're in our very creations. But society has not taught us about them. And it's time to get back to who we truly are, divine beings, and find out what we're really made of and what our potential is. So on that path to do that, we have to discern very specifically what is the experience that we're having. Is it an experience with the twin flame soulmate, a friend, somebody that we connected telepathically with, or somebody in universal consciousness? So those are my 2 cents for twin flame soulmates today, and I'm glad I could spend some time with you and explain, hopefully, some of the concepts that you might be going through. Thank you.